Jason Tatum was able to step up and match Giannis in game 6, right? Put up 46 points. Giannis, obviously the best player in that series, but, Tatum stepped up, and then in game 7, Giannis, 25 and 20, but, missed some shots he usually makes. You can't keep, I think he had like 200, 150, first player to ever do that. So props to Giannis, man, 34, 15, and 7 per game. So he was spectacular, but at the end of the day, you're right, Sam, like the Celtics had a better overall team. They grinded it out. Role players got hot in game 7. And, today's May 22nd. The Heat are winning 2-1, but I'm still picking the Celtics in 7. I'm with you on that one. Leslie, you got Celtics in 7?
Celtics in 6, baby.
6?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think Celtics, man, the Heat, if Jimmy Butler comes back healthy, they could push it to 7. But either or, I'll call the Celtics winning the whole thing. Welcome to the Raw Sports Debate. Tonight, we have our guest on the show, Sam. All right, it's going to be Leslie, Sam, and then Michael, Steven. Today, we're going to be talking about superstars that are underperformed and then some that are still overperforming. And then also, we're going to talk about, how the Western Conference is looking right now, as well as the Eastern Conference final. Okay. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference final. I called Celtics in 7 against Bucks. So for once, Mike, I think you take the L here. And then I called Dallas in 7 versus Suns.
For twice.
Okay, so we 2 for 2 now, because I did call, Memphis beating Golden State, and, Golden State came up big. I think I looked a little stupid right there, but it's all good. I look right against the Suns because, I could predict some great things, when it comes to people like Chris Paul and the likes of others, Devin Booker, I think they all underperform, but we're going to talk about all of that later. But we'll start with the Celtics and, the Bucks game, how it ended, get into this final with the Heat right now. How do you guys think it is going? We'll start with you, Sam, the first time on the show.
Yeah, so I think truly the Celtics kind of just, grinded that series out. I don't think outside of Jason Tatum, nobody really particularly made their stamp throughout the series. But I think on individual games, you saw guys like Al Horford, guys like Grant Williams step up. Jaylen Brown, was his solid, consistent throughout the playoffs. And so we saw that team move forward because Chris Middleton's injury, as well as nobody really on the Bucks stepping up to really match Giannis, I think offensively. I do think if we move on to the Miami Heat, the Celtics, they're having a tough time because the Heat have a defense much like them. They like to muck games up themselves. They like to make it difficult on other teams, But we saw Jason Tatum yesterday not have a good performance, although Jaylen Brown did have 40. The Celtics, I think the story of that game was turnovers. So manage their turnovers. I think truly they are the better team. I will say I am a Celtics fan, but truly I think they are the better team in this conference finals here against the Miami Heat. And so I think if they can limit their turnovers and not let the Miami Heat defense do to them what the Celtics usually do to other teams, and they will have a chance to move on to the finals in 7.
Okay, good take. What about you, Mike? What do you think?
First off, I believe a few episodes ago, Leslie, you said, I ain't worried about the Heat. The Heat don't scare me. All right. Mr.
You got to eat that one. The big time, because they made it all the way to the finals. I wasn't scared of them when they played, Atlanta.
Yeah.
But I do think, the injury of Clint Capella did eliminate a lot of, defensive things that they could have, done. It made Bam Adebayo look like Joel Embiid, and that's not really who he is. But that series, he went off. And then moving on, the Sixers, somebody else, the big man Embiid was hurt.
Sixers are already in Cancun. Wait, what are we talking about?
Yeah, they're already in Cancun. But go ahead. This is your take.
Yeah, so listen, I did say Bucks in 7. I was hoping Middleton would return, but he didn't. So we'll never know. But the Celtics are a more well-rounded team. And unlike the Suns, which we'll get to unfortunately later, Jason Tatum was able to step up and match Giannis in game 6, right? Put up 46 points. Giannis, obviously the best player in that series, but, Tatum stepped up, and then in game 7, Giannis, 25 and 20, but, missed some shots he usually makes. You can't keep, I think he had like 200, 150, first player to ever do that. So props to Giannis, man, 34, 15, and 7 per game. So he was spectacular, but at the end of the day, you're right, Sam, like the Celtics had a better overall team. They grinded it out. Role players got hot in game 7. And, today's May 22nd. The Heat are winning 2-1, but I'm still picking the Celtics in 7. I'm with you on that one. Leslie, you guys Celtics in 7?
Celtics in 6, baby.
6?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think Celtics, man, the Heat, if Jimmy Butler comes back healthy, they could push it to 7. But either or, I'll call the Celtics winning the whole thing.
Okay.
Finally.
Yeah, well, now, because I told you, it was always going to be
Eastern
whoever
Conference is
won.
going to win. What's that mean?
Eastern Conference, because I was picking either the Bucks or the Celtics.
I know.
Why? Because Giannis was the best player remaining in, the playoffs. And if you have the best player in, basketball with Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, they've shown you when you have the best player, you have a chance all the time, So I was always I was never going to, count the Bucks out, even with Middleton's injury. But again, I have to, understand that the Celtics, to me, are the better team this year, all rounded, offensively and on defense as well. On offense, they have Jason Tatum. He can get any bucket he wants. They have Jaylen Brown, who could do the same thing. Marcus Smart is being a better shooter. You have Al Horford, who you can always rely on. Grant Williams is hitting the threes like no other. He hit 7 the other game. So, they have guys that can always step up. On defense, they play better as a team, and you can love them for that. So that's why I always said, whoever won that game was going to win it all. But now we know it's the Celtics. So, yeah, I don't think the Heat will be a huge problem. You got to understand, out of 12 quarters, the Heat, I believe, have won, 2 outside of all of that, So if they're up 2-1,
they won them by 90.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But, my point is, whenever the Celtics lose, they lose big. Whenever, they win, you can tell they're always the better team, and they find a way to somehow at the end lose. They've dropped 2 games where you can tell this could have been a 3-0 lead right now for them. So I do think right now, like I'm always calling it early, Celtics in 6. But like I said, if the Heat can push another one, then we'll get, Celtics in 7 regardless.
Yeah. The Heat definitely know how to extend the series, but I mean, 2 quarters out of 12 is hard to believe in long term. I think a game where you're up 25 at halftime and it gets down to 1 point lead before, I think some careless fouls, some things of that nature. But to let them back in that game is problematic for the Heat as well, as I'm sure they're talking about, within their locker room and things like that. But I think Celtics in 7 on my side.
But yeah, Sam, I hear you. 10 out of 12 quarters, overtime, but on that note, on game 3, Butler looked like he has knee inflammation. What's his status going forward? This is important.
Yeah, so he had a knee inflammation. That's why he didn't return. But, they're optimistic that, tomorrow he might be, available. But, we got his injuries day to day. So we got to wait to see, each day how it,
He's playing great, man. He's playing great.
He is playing great,
Yeah, he is.
He's playing like a player that, you can easily rely on if you put pieces around him. He's looking like one of those players that, you build around. And, again, the Heat also have a great coaching staff. Mike Spoelstra, you got to give him the props too as well. But unfortunately, I think this, series, the Celtics still have a better team and they're going to move on. All right. So now we'll move to the Western Conference, how the Suns game ended with the Mavs, Mavs ended up moving on, and then Golden State also found a way to squeeze it through to get to the finals. So now we have Golden State and the Mavs going on right now. But, I think that game affected you personally. So I'll let you go first on this, Mike. Come on, let me hear what you got to say on this one.
Well, I did my ranting last week prior to game 7, and you said, hey, Mike, it's like they're going to lose game 7. And I'm not going to say that I knew it, but things weren't trending in the right direction. So listen, first off, Suns and the Bucks, say sayonara to both of them. Last year's finals champions or finals contestants, both heading to Cancun. Now,
Long.
historic. Well, I'm just wondering: are the Suns all going? Is Ayton joining the team? Because now I'm hearing rumors that there might have been locker room issues with Ayton, not getting his bread, not getting the ball. I think about Game 3, them trying to force feed him the ball and him dropping everything. But the bottom line is this: historic Game 7 loss for the Suns. You lose by 33 points at home as the number 1 seed in the second round. Everybody blame across the board. Chris Paul, number 1, Booker right up there with him. The whole team, the whole coaching staff. I have all my theories. Chris Paul either aged in dog years. The whole team was paid off. There was what else? DeAndre Ayton. I don't know, man. It was really hard to watch that game and be like, yo, what is going on out there? 57-27. Luka scored 27. So the bottom line is I know we had talked about this before. Sure, they won 64 games, and if you look back in history, teams that won that many games relative to the rest of the league, they usually win. But what is this team? What's the difference between this team and those teams? Those teams had Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. There's nobody like that on this team. Okay, you have 37-year-old Chris Paul. You don't have 30-year-old Chris Paul. You don't have 28-year-old Devin Booker, who's going to be better. You don't have that all-time great number 1 option. So Luka was the best player on the court. And that's the trump card, like we talked about. The only time it's not is if you got Tatum, who can compete with Giannis, like he did, like we just talked about. So at the end of the day, I was 100% wrong. I think we were all wrong on the Suns, but that's why they lost. They lost because Chris Paul got old. Whatever he did, he stunk in the last 5 games. There's no excuse for it. Booker was horrible in Game 7. Yeah. And that's all I got to say. I'm done. All right. Go ahead, Les. Let me have it.
Well, I think, personally, the Suns underperformed, like you said, being the number 1 seed, losing by 33 at home. Booker was looking like, that guy during Game 2, when he was laying there calling it, Luka special and all of that, I think he thinks he's Jason Tatum. I think that's what it is, But I wish I was Jason Tatum too, so I could see that. But again, that's not how, we all expected that series to go, because Devin Booker has always been that guy that, if Booker gets that guy, he's going to go to the play. And then he got Paul. First, we all saw how it went. And then this year, so we expected them to at least go back to the finals, just like the Bucks. With the Bucks, they legitimately lost one of, if not their best shot maker, outside of Giannis. So with them, you can't say the Bucks underperformed. I think they stayed, on par with Celtics till Game 7. I think the Bucks will roll through a lot of teams. If the Bucks would have been in, the finals right now if they didn't phase the Celtics, that was going to be the hardest matchup, and that's what they got into. So with a team like Suns, I think they really underperformed because now they're facing a Dallas team that overperformed against the Jazz. If you look back, so when you think forward, it's like, how does, Dallas find a way to get here? And then, it's like the I Believe team, they're just going, behind Luka and all of that. They were picking up, screens with Luka, just making him look bad. But then, they adjusted. I don't think the Suns adjusted. I think the Suns were like, we're better than you and we're going to beat you. And it just didn't work, So I think they highly underperformed with that. But, what do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I do agree. The Suns, I think their thing all year has been great team basketball with their 2 consistent guys kind of leading the way. I think you saw that early in the series. You see Chris Paul having his way. You see Devin Booker having his way games 1 and 2. Although Luka had an enormous point total, they really couldn't get over that. But as we move into the later games in the series, you see Luka really starting to have his way, even though you see the early, Game 3, Game 4, I think he wasn't scoring right off of the bat. He was, getting a lot of rebounds, assisting, really drawing a lot of attention, opening up shots for his guys. And so, at the end of the day, the Suns later in the series really kind of fell off, although Booker, I think, averaged decent numbers throughout the series. Like you said, Mike, he had a terrible Game 7. Game 7 was just kind of atrocious. Like you said, you see Luka getting off to a crazy start. You see Dinwiddie getting off to a crazy start, and Brunson joining them later. I think you got to also look to a guy like Mikal Bridges, who is respectably a DPOY candidate this year. Also needed to have his way with one of those guys and shut down what one of them at least was doing when you have a team that has 2-3 guys going off in a game 7.
Yeah.
But you look at guys like Chris Paul, who started to disappear throughout the series. And it's interesting when you look at his numbers, it wasn't like he stunk it up in terms of numbers, but production wise, Chris Paul is a guy who can draw a lot of attention, gets in the mid range, is able to hit that shot, is able to, throughout the regular season, embarrassing youngsters, and rightfully so. He's been in this game for a long time, but you got to put your stamp on the series. As a guy like that who has that type of career, you have to put your stamp on a series like that. And they really just didn't get it done. I think, like you said, maybe there is some locker room noise they have to figure out. Maybe it's, Ayton, I think also game 7 didn't have a lot of touches. Didn't really look like he was wanting to be aggressive. So
wasn't engaged, right?
Wasn't engaged. Yeah, I agree. And so whatever happened with them, they have to find a way to move forward and put the right pieces in place. I do think it's possible. I remember a game versus the Celtics earlier this year that almost wasn't the beginning of the Celtics run, playing against the Suns. Although the Celtics came out against that game, you might be able to remind me. I can't remember the big man's name who was filling in for Ayton while he was injured.
JaVale McGee?
Not JaVale McGee, a young guy. Don't know if he's still on the Suns right now.
I forget his name.
We'll come back to that, but he was playing out of his mind. And so I think the Suns have a good system. I think if they really have the right pieces in play, maybe get a couple more guys on their bench, right? People like Campaign, he was hooping a lot more last year in the playoffs and didn't really put his stamp on anything this year either. I think if they get some more pieces in place that can really deliver, kind of fill in the rest of those spaces, then they should be okay. But definitely disappointing playoffs for them after a good year.
Yeah, Les, and we talked about all the length of Suns, right? Like Bridges, Cam Johnson. We talked about their length.
Crowder.
And they didn't use it. They didn't phase Luka. They are younger. I don't want to call them soft, but they didn't play as tough as they needed to.
Right.
And to your point on Chris Paul, shooting numbers are fine. But you know what he reminded me of? I grew up a Jordan fan. He looked like John Stockton. When John Stockton was like 34, 35, 36, it's like he was shooting 50%, but it's like he knew in his head, it's like, I can't get shots off. It's like, I was able to do it against when I was able to get to my spots. But once they took away Chris Paul's spots, again, whether he was injured or not, doesn't matter. He didn't get shots off. He shot 56% in the playoffs. Oh, that's nice. He didn't score. He didn't produce. And then once he can't produce, the team can double team Booker, and it's a wrap. And then if Ayton and the other guys aren't being aggressive and making shots, it was over. And it looked, to me, their body language looked like, we're done. We can't figure this out, which then goes to coaching as well. It was really confusing. And I'm mad that I forgot that center's name. He played a great job. He did a great job in that series. He might have been the MVP of the last 5 games.
Right.
But I've the reason I can't remember his name, guys, is because I already tried to erase that memory from my memory bank.
I know it hurt.
It's been a week. It's over.
I know it hurts.
It's football season now. But anyway, go ahead, Les.
I could tell. But anyway, what about the Golden State Mavs series? I think that's another great one that we're yet to talk about. But personally, I think Curry is still putting his stamp on it. He's still making a note that, listen, I'm not just in my 30s.
You heard me.
Getting old. He said, listen, I'm still the best player right now, and if you really think about it, Curry might be the best player in the playoffs right now with how he's playing in his, legacy.
Now Luka's going to score 60 tonight.
I hope he does, because I like to push players myself, I think personally, it might go to game 7. Game 7 on this.
I'll be honest with you. I did pick Mavs in 7, but that might have been some misplaced anger coming out. Okay. It might have been, I may have wanted to make myself feel better, but I just saw the way the Grizzlies, who are very talented, and the Grizzlies are going to be a problem next year. They may make the finals next year, but I saw the way they pushed the Warriors, even blew them out a couple of times. And I was like, you know what? I think the Mavericks can take them, but it might have been a little bit of like, hey, I want to feel better about the Suns. So I did pick Mavs in 7. I know we didn't talk about it, but I'll be honest. I picked Mavs in 7. So I might have to revise that right now, but I'll stick with it.
If you do, you have the chance. Go ahead.
Nope.
Go ahead.
I'm picking. No, I could be 100% wrong.
Right.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny, guys? Like I just thought about this yesterday because I saw an article about it and then I thought about it. It's like if Game 4 went differently, where Chris Paul got in those foul trouble and all that, Luka. I was yelling at Luka for falling down and stuff. But if they're able to close out Game 4, which historically in his youth, Chris Paul used to take over Game 4s. They never had any clutch moments in the series. The games were not really close, most of the games. If they were able to close out Game 4, then they go back in Game 5, they probably win 4-1. Like that's how close like NBA series could be. Like winning 5, losing 7. Like so, the bottom line is like the Warriors could win this series in 5, or maybe the Mavs do win in 7. So I'm gonna stick with Mavs in 7, even if I'm like a moron a week from now, because it happens now and then. I've been right at 10 out of 12 series, Les. 10 out of 12. I got.
That's good.
That's a good record. That's a good record.
I'll probably get the rest wrong now. What do you think? What's your take, Sam? Who are you picking?
First and foremost, Jalen Smith was his name, and I'd like to apologize, Jalen Smith.
All right.
The Suns center. Yeah. So pieces like that, I think they'll be back. I think when we talk about the Warriors against the Mavericks, the Warriors are absolutely battle tested. I'll say right off the bat, I'm taking the Warriors in 6 myself. And the reason for that is, like I said, the Warriors are battle tested. Steph Curry, I think, averaging 26 and 10 through 2 games. He knows how to put his stamp on the series. When you get a guy like Jordan Poole who plays in that same area of space that Steph Curry does, those lineups are crazy deathly for other teams. They open up space for each other. They come off of screens, willing screen setters. And you have a guy like Klay Thompson who hasn't been playing that well even. So 2-0, you have really only Luka has been placing, his or asserting his dominance on this series. I think the rest of the Mavericks, you don't see anybody, Jalen Brunson should have more productive series like he has been. You think, Dinwiddie has a game or 2 here or there, but guys like Maxi Kleber who aren't really stepping in and filling that space. I think he hasn't been playing terribly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but those guys really have surrounded the Mavs and been very strong role players. We'll see how, today's game goes as they go back to Texas and get that home court. But I think the Warriors are dangerous wherever they are. You have to respect that kind of team that's battle tested, that has championship players leading the way. Guys like Draymond Green who can communicate and hold it down on defense, where you get rookies, or guys with not a lot of experience, Moses Moody getting in the game and having a great game. That can't happen for Dallas. So I think tonight is like you said, a series can change in a matter of 1 game. I thought the same when not to go back to the Celtics, but when they beat the Nets Game 1 with that Tatum spin around layup, that was frantic, right? That wasn't a very great way to win. I mean, it was a great way to win, but it didn't say a lot. But it turned into a sweep, right? It can change just like that. And so I think Dallas has to come out, and I think Luka's going to do what Luka's going to do. I will say Luka is unguardable. I firmly believe that. You have to guard him as a full unit. No one person can guard Luka. But at the end of the day, if the role players don't step up, which they haven't in the first 2 games, then I think definitely Warriors in 6. And even if they do, I hate to say it, I think Warriors in 7. A team like that gets it done consistently, even through tough times of certain players, like Klay Thompson, other people step up. So I'll say the Warriors are taking this series 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's looking like, a Warriors party until, like I said, Luka, makes this his day tonight. But what like a
Warriors in 4. I got it.
I'm just kidding. What you been smoking on?
Not enough lately, but go ahead.
I could tell. But like I said, it's still going to 7. And I think I'm picking the Warriors. They could get it done in 6 based on, how Dallas performs. I think if Dallas comes out, plays really well, win by 10, 15, it's going to, give them the momentum back. They can go back and, win Game 4 as well, right at home. But if they let us slip out, let Golden State get another one, then I tell you it's over, boys. It might be, Golden State in 5. But either I'm picking Golden State. It's looking like Golden State Celtics finals where, the championship coming back to the East side, Suns couldn't get it done last year. The Bucks did. Now I think the Warriors are not going to push Celtics to, an extent like that. But anyway, moving on, we're going to talk about, some of the guys that, are overperformed, by some of their season. Their season guy ended shortly. I'll let you start it off with that, Mike.
Well, just to close out what we were just talking about, I was playing pickup basketball yesterday with Steve, and we were on the same team, and we let the first game slide. So after that, we lost, and I was like, we both made our free throws. We joined again, and I said, listen, no messing around. First half Luka. So now every time we go in, I'm like, yo, first half Luka. First half Luka. And we won the rest of our games. Went 5-0 after that. Yeah. And I had a great run. So, so that I'm going to start saying that for now on. Because Luka, man, he has these halves, man. Like sometimes it looks like he doesn't pace himself, but man, like these 25, 30-point first halves, man. Eventually he's going to put together two of them. He's going to have 60 points. That's coming soon. But so who has overperformed or underperformed? Which one you want?
Overperform. We start with overperforming. I
would say Jimmy Butler and the Heat. As much as I do respect Jimmy, I mean, still 28, 7 and 5 on 54% shooting, leading the playoffs in steals. That's really amazing. I would say individual players, Luka, again, as great as he is, he just continues year in and year out to be this, this generation's Larry Bird is what I think he's going to be. Who else overperforms? The whole Grizzlies team. I know they were something like 21-4 or something without Ja this year, but sometimes that could be scheduling. I was really impressed when Ja went down that they really gave the Warriors a run for their money. That could have easily gone 7. And if that game went 7 at the Grindhouse, you never know. So I think that entire team, all those dudes on that team, deserve a lot of respect. And if we're dating ourselves a little bit, even the Timberwolves, I thought Anthony Edwards and those guys did a great job. And that's it. That's all I could think of right now. I'll let you guys have the floor.
What about you, Sam?
The overperformed. I would agree with that. I think we see Jimmy Butler. I mean, we know what he's capable of, right? But he came back after a disappointing playoffs last year and has really been leading that Miami Heat team. So I will agree with that, Jimmy Butler for sure. I was going to say, I agree with the whole Grizzlies team. Absolutely. I thought personally the Grizzlies underperformed a little bit against the Timberwolves. But as a whole in the playoffs, when you look at what they did against the Warriors, I think they did.
I agree with that.
But meaning that, yes, the T-Wolves also did overperform. Underperform, I'm going to get on the Atlanta Hawks here. I will say really quickly, although we're talking about Jimmy Butler to tie that in, right? Jimmy Butler overperformed, the Miami Heat overperformed. Miami Heat did see an Atlanta Hawks team that you did mention, they were a little bit injured. So we're the Philadelphia 76ers. But I think when we talk about the Heat overperforming, I think we also have to talk about the underperformance of those Hawks, which really let them get into, kind of that up and running playoffs, momentum building, space, which, like we said, that I think the Grizzlies against the T-Wolves needed that. When you get that momentum, it can take you a lot of places. So I think when we talk about Jimmy Butler overperforming, we also have to say that the teams he played kind of let him get into that overperforming situation. So
absolutely. You look at Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young, highly underperformed. Not having Clint Capella did hurt him, but does it tell you that he needs that center to always find that screen around or whatever? Listen, Trey, it's a big boys league. You gotta know how to play in front of these guys 1 and 2. They were guarding him crazy. PJ Tucker is just an amazing defender. How you could tell how he's playing against Jason Tatum right now. Last game Grant Williams had to get in front of the ref that, hey, come on, like you see what PJ's doing. But I understand JT gotta, JT gotta step up for himself and, just use that 6'10", height and muscle. They're pushing him off his pivot. That's what's happening. Year in and year out, PJ Tucker overperforming. You can tell, Jimmy Butler is, you could tell he was missed last game, but look at what PJ Tucker does. Whoever your best player is, even if you're gonna give, the team 50. PJ Tucker is going to make sure, listen, today you felt my presence, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, they're both, feeling it right now. I think he's overperforming and playing great. He's a great piece to have. And also, like I said, Trae Young highly underperformed. Also, Devin Booker highly underperformed because, you expect more than just 22 points from Booker. We know him to be, 30 point, go get it, especially when you have guys like Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, James Harden highly underperformed because, bad. I think he, personally, I in the beginning started calling him the third option, and you looked at me like I was crazy, but he showed it that he is barely the third option. Like Tobias Harris was even putting up numbers than him, and this is disappointing, that I was campaigning for no max contract, but he proved me right. And I hope he doesn't get that, max contract. We'll give him, 5 years, $100 million, get 20 a year. That's fine. Retire as a Sixer, you get all this bashing, it's going to toughen you up, and you're going to come out, and use that experience somehow.
The time for that is past.
Listen, he still has Joel Embiid. Okay. That's all I'm saying. Because now in this market, you can't really get nothing. You can let him walk. I'm fine with that. But who are we really going to get for that max contract right now? There's Zach. But I don't know if he wants to leave. I heard he doesn't want to play number 2 behind DeRozan. And they're saying the Lakers. And I'm like, why would he want to go play 3 or 4 on the Lakers? Because you got Bron, you got, AD, Glass D, all of that.
No, Mr. Bubble.
Nah, Glass.
AD, that's Anthony Davis.
I like
that's my favorite one.
Anthony Davis.
I wish he was healthy, but that was the funniest one I've seen.
Street clothes. So Unibrow. He's got a lot of nicknames. He's got a ton of nicknames.
Glass, but again, a coach that underperformed, Doc Rivers,
Who?
Glenn, your boy Glenn. He highly underperformed.
Mama name him Glenn. I'm gonna call him Glenn. That's with 2 N's. Do you know how he got his nickname, Sam? He was wearing his coach, Rick Majerus, saw him wearing a Dr. J t-shirt. Okay? So I'm not trying to disrespect the man. I have great respect for Glenn Rivers. But his nickname comes from the guy who's the only doctor in Philadelphia. So I call him Glenn. But go ahead, Les. My bad.
Yeah, I think, some of his, changes that he made throughout the season, you could tell it did really hurt the Philadelphia Sixers a lot. I know Joel Embiid was hurt, but prior to him, being in that position, I think you can tell, like, sometimes he comes out, puts up 30, some days he comes out 19, and not because he's doing anything different, but there's days that, like, they can't get Embiid the ball. Like, how? Like, they goes 3, 4, 5 possessions without Embiid touching the ball, and then the team goes the other end, hits a shot. Things like that were, continuous. And I know Doc has had great seasons with other teams, but I think now it's just his name. It's just his name that's riding for him because he's not performing. And I don't think he performed as well. So highly underperformed as well over there too.
He has to find a way to get more out of James Harden. Both of them should have, that fire lit under them as much as people like, Ben Simmons did.
Yeah.
I agree with
Harden,
that.
I mean, I don't know if Harden's taking care of his body,
right.
And you can't come into the season like Shaq and play your way into shape like you did last year. And they changed the rules on him. So that was a bad combination.
Yeah.
But I didn't do underperform. Listen, we know who underperformed in the West, the Suns. Can you imagine the entire team? But could you imagine, guys, if you had Glenn Rivers, Chris Paul, and James Harden on a team? Man, they would blow so many leads. 2-0, 3-1, like that would be, they'd probably blow the first 3-0 lead.
Yeah. The Sixers were close with the Raptors. Again, you see how, he rotated everything, it was that close. If that game went to 6.
Yeah.
Because I begrudge, like Sam, like I've always joked with Les. It's like, I always put why the Clippers never made a finals or even made the conference finals. It's like, well, they were never a championship team. If you go year by year, they were never better than the Warriors, Spurs, OKC, going backwards there. Like, they were never better, but they had Rivers was one problem. Chris Paul was like the third problem. The second problem was their bench, you know, and their defense. So like I always joke and I got defensive about it, but now just in 2022, it's all of them. All of them are true.
Yeah,
it's like
Paul was 2. Give Paul 2. Let him carry a big weight. All right.
Yeah,
strong legs.
No way.
I will say, you know, you hear Patrick Beverly out here calling him a cone. I do disagree with that, but I feel like when Chris Paul isn't delivering on the offensive end, then absolutely his production net wise gets into a negative.
Thank you for bringing that up.
You know, he is an all-time great defensively. He's got a lot of first teams under his belt. So.
Over Patrick Beverly,
Patrick Beverly says something about how when he guards Steph Curry, he goes to bed at 8 and he tells his girl, but if he's going to guard old Chris Paul, he goes out and parties till 10. I mean, so what? Yeah. Did he have a 5-course meal last year when he gave up 41 points in a game 6?
Right. Yeah.
I forget. He must have been out late with James Harden.
It was a Pat Bev thing, you know, because, you know, Luka's out here, you know, over muscling you, you know, dunking on you, you know, telling you you're small. And then, you know, you get a bucket or 2 over Jam Moran and you calling him a baby. Pat Bev is funny for that. But, you know, you like guys like him as well, too. Yeah. But again,
makes for good TV.
Yeah, it makes, but again, he is right in the sense that Chris Paul did underperform. Absolutely. He did disrespect him on other levels, you know, because he is not a cone. He does play good defense, but it's just that, you know, you get to other series and other coaches find a way to, you know, make you the guy that, you know, they would rather go against.
Absolutely.
And that's what really happened, you know.
That's what he does. Turn around on him now. Yeah. Jason Kidd, very smart, man. Let's give Jason Kidd some props, man.
100%.
Yeah, because it goes up to be like, it was Luka that, you know, if you think about was really the, you know, defensive problem, but they found a way to, you know, help him on defense. It's like, hey, give us 2-3 seconds, you know, we'll be there, you know, things like that. But Chris Paul, they started, you know, putting guys 6'5". The moment he touches the ball, they're right on his hip, you know, that wears you out, you know. They did that time and time, and he has to, you know, pass the ball, you know, be more accurate because you got a guy 6'5" that's on your hip constant. You know, we both play sports. We know what it's like. You know,
it's annoying.
You know, but it's constantly, you know, that tight defense they played on him. You know, again, he's 37, not 30. Right. So they found a way to wear him down. You know, but that doesn't mean on defense he was not doing his job. He was offensively. He just shut down. That affected the team as a whole.
Yeah, Booker needs to get better too, but we'll see. No more.
No, I agree. I was gonna say, so Chris Paul, I think in the half court, you know, right, in transition, that's a huge problem for him because he's not sprinting to keep up with a lot of these guys. And then in those, you know, tough one-on-one, like the Luka matchup, that's a tough matchup for him, right? If Dinwiddie's hot, that could be a tough matchup with a lot of space, right? But I think he does hold his own against a lot of other guys. He's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He just didn't really get it done against, you know, the guys who are really punishing his weak spots, I think, right now. Like you said, Devin Booker does have to get better. We're talking about a guy who's 6'5", 6'6", a lot of length, somebody that should be, you know, an all-star two-way player, I think, when really we know what he's capable of on the offensive end. And he shows those, you know, quick flashes on the defensive end. But I think, like you said, we got to expect a lot more out of Devin Booker too.
What do you guys think about him on defense? Because I watched so many Suns games this year, and I thought he tried really hard. But you know what? JJ Redick tried really hard on defense too. Okay, trying doesn't really matter.
Absolutely.
Do guys score on you? Do you have the right defensive instincts? And I think that despite his efforts, Booker just doesn't have those natural defensive dog instincts like a PJ Tucker or something. So I just don't think he has that. Again, Chris Paul's 6 foot. If he was 6'6" with that kind of defense, he would have been crazy, you know? But it's like you can shoot over guys like Chris Paul. You can shoot over these guys. You can't. Booker, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like he's not ever going to be a great defender.
Yeah, he does try hard, you know, and then his length, you know, makes him look like a good defender as well. But sometimes your length doesn't matter, you know. Luka's 6'7", and he's a cone. I'll tell you that on defense.
That's effort, though.
Yeah, he does put in, you know, effort. But Devin Booker looks like he does, you know, try on defense, but, you know, offensively, he's so much better that on defense, it's like, guys like that, I feel like sometimes they don't guard a player that, you know, challenges them. You know, Devin Booker is not going to go guard Luka. It's not gonna happen. He might get him on the screen, and Luka, might barbecue chicken him because he's Luka. But he might guard a guy like not even Jalen Brunson, to be honest with you. He did guard him a couple of times, and then he was crying. They were both crying at each other and stuff. But he won't guard guys like that. So you could just tell, like, sometimes some stars end up having to do so much less on defense that, it's not them, It's not them. They got to find the guys like Beverly, PJ Tucker to put around them because they know they're not going to put in that kind of effort.
But Luka has size. And like, I know Kid even said when his Suns were acting all high and mighty after game 2, like, oh, we were taking advantage of Luka. They didn't say that, but you could see their mannerisms. They got overconfident like I did. And they said, yo, Luka, all you got to do is flash for a couple seconds and then go back. Basically, it's a 5-on-5 game and he's a team defender. And you know what? Like, you're a Celtics fan. Larry Bird, man, like Larry Bird didn't have the quickest feet in the world, but he had great defensive instincts. He was tough as hell. Yep. And he had size. So, like, yeah, I mean, Jordan and any of these guys could take him one-on-one, but he was a great, tough team defender. And that is what Luka can be. So let's give Sam the floor, Les. Why are you a Celtics fan?
Oh, Celtics fan, man. This is honestly an unfortunate story. So growing up here, this is, in Las Vegas is obviously more so towards the West Coast. Grew up kind of in a predominantly Lakers society and just absolutely wanted to rebel against that. Although I do give the Lakers props, I'm not some kind of Laker hater these days, but I will say it was absolute rebellion on my behalf. And then growing up, with them, of course, they had the great, a lot of people call it the first, big three, right? We had the Ray Allen, the Paul Pierce, and the Kevin Garnett. But I think even through those years, seeing them, they started hot, and then that was the best they ever were, right? And then you saw that team kind of fall off. Especially later against Miami Heat. And then you see him go through the rebuilding phase that didn't take long. I think that's when it really strengthened. I was watching a lot of those games, turning that, those few years of struggle into the Isaiah Thomas kind of grit and grind team. Marcus Smart really started to, show out. Jaylen Brown was getting a little bit older. Jason Tatum was very new, but kind of seeing what came out of that Nets trade or, the grand heist of the Nets with that trade that brought all the picks in that turned into almost the whole team. Mm-hmm. I think
it's nice to see him it all work out, right?
Yeah. Right.
Most teams don't see that.
Most teams don't, and that gives them a chance going forward with those guys. I think that's what's really made me a Celtics fan. But it started as rebellion and hate for the Lakers at the time. But grew up obviously ending up not liking them, right? Like I'm still their rival, but having respect for that team, that organization, that culture, the players that have gone in and out. So that's why I'm a Celtics fan. I will say regarding Devin Booker, I do think he has all the tools necessary on defense to be able to be, kind of a two-way menace. I think he did have a lot of effort this year. Something I will say is the Suns play a lot of great team defense as well. They muck it up for other teams. But when they're struggling, much like I give flack to Jason Tatum for this, when they're struggling as a team, like when Jason Tatum's struggling, right, you see the defense start to disappear. They're kind of upset. They're kind of slower, complaining, not really locked in, not engaged. And I think that's what happens to Devin Booker a lot of the time as well. When he's not having his way, of course he has tough matchups, right? You're not really going to guard Luka Doncic, right? But and Devin Booker, playing at a position that's absolutely loaded, you have to guard guys that are capable of going off for 35, 40 every night. It's not easy, but I think a lot of the times he does check out as well. If the team's not locked in, if he's not locked in, if he's not having a good night, he might check out. You see it happen to a lot of guys around the league, and I'll say that's probably why sometimes he might get out of it too.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that goes. That answers your question, Mike.
Yeah, I love it with Kobe in the background. He's got the Celtics hat.
Yeah, it all makes sense. It all makes sense.
So all right, so I'm picking the Celtics to win the title. Who are you picking? Celtics? You picking the Celtics, Les?
I've been picking the Celtics since day one.
This is supposed to be a debate show. We all agree.
Hey, you went first because you wanted me to go Golden State. I picked the Celtics.
I have a differing opinion.
But if you go with the Celtics, Go ahead.
I was going to say I have one scenario in which I think the Celtics don't win the finals, right? Obviously, if they can't get it together against the Heat, right, they're not going to obviously win the finals. But I think they do somehow figure it out like they did against the Bucks. They started that series a little bit ugly, a little bit muddy, and they found their way out of it after being down. I think the Celtics get to the finals against the Warriors, and I think they're the best matched team remaining in the playoffs against the Warriors, and I think they'll be capable of kind of, drawing some disaster for them. I don't have the exact number in my head, but you look at the last few years, the Celtics Warriors. As a Celtics fan, I know we've had a lot of success against them, and their guys have gone off, but we found ways to win a lot of games too, even dating back to that Isaiah Thomas era. So I think we'll find ways to be able to muck up a Warriors series. Of course, they're champs. I give them respect. I'll say Celtics in 7. There's a little bit of bias in that statement, of course, as well. I think Celtics Mavericks, that one gives me a little bit more heartburn. The Mavericks notoriously, last 3 games against the Celtics have won by Luka step back 3, left side, top of the key. Luka step back 3, left side, top of the key. And basically a Spencer Dinwiddie, there was some time left on the clock, but Spencer Dinwiddie ended up hitting that game winner, essentially. So I think the Mavericks, for some reason, have the Celtics number, are capable of mucking it up. I would give that a game 7 either way. And we know what the Mavericks are capable of doing, unfortunately, in game 7, right? So
yeah, I know.
I think but like I said, I do think Warriors in 6 or 7. So ultimately, if we have some kind of flow chart for my thought process here, I will pick the Celtics to win the finals. I do think if they see the Mavericks, that'll be more of a problem than the Warriors will be. As crazy as that sounds.
No, it makes sense. Matchups, like boxing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Leslie?
Hey, like I said, I picked the Celtics. Why? Because they have the better team. But when you have guys like, Luka, when you have guys like Steph, they put their stamp on everything that's going on. I think the problem is gonna be for Celtics is if they don't show up. And it's something that since the Bucks game, they happen to sometimes lose games when it's right there. Golden State is a team that will punish you.
Yeah.
You saw with what they did with Dallas in game 2. Like the moment Luka thought he was happy, Steph, Draymond, Clay, they've been tested many times by greats like LeBron year in and year after. So it goes to show, like, teams like that, you can't just slack, but again, having on the other side with Dallas, they can take care of, the business, with how they took care of, the Suns. The Suns are as good of a team as much as, the Celtics are, especially on defense. They were like number 2 and number 3, top 5, so you got to respect that as well. And, Mavs found a way to beat them. So it's doable that they can do the same thing against the Celtics. Most of the Mavs wins this year were all on the road. They started the same thing with, the Jazz. They're always going to steal one here, steal one there. Now it's looking very shaky against, Golden State. But again, you got to remember, against the Suns, they were down 2-0 as well.
Stop bringing that up. I just forgot about it already.
They came back and took care of that, so it's going to be a great match. As long as we get Celtics up there, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I think that's all that matters.
Well, you don't want to see the Heat? Is Lowry hurt again?
He came back last night.
He played, and he actually had a pretty solid game.
He had a solid game.
Hate to say that, but
he had a solid game.
I like Lowry.
Yeah, he had a solid game. I'm not a fan of Larry. Larry, he flops too much for me. But he built like a bulldog. He
went to the Chris Paul School of Defense and Flopping. Yes, he did.
Yeah, he's like that. I guess that makes sense why those kind of players are not my favorite. The floppy types, victimizers.
Sam, I don't like flopping at all. When I went to basketball camp, they used to show us how to take charges. I'm like, yo, we're just flopping onto a mat over here. This is flopping,
You gotta actually get hit.
Yeah. I don't mind, and this is before Chris Paul's even in the league. I didn't mind when Derek Fisher did it. I didn't mind when John Stockton, he was a dirty player. I didn't mind when they did it because they were small, and that's part of their game. But it's when I see Luka do it and I see LeBron do it, that's
Everyone
why
does it these days. Yeah.
I can't stand the big dudes. And your boy Kobe never did it. That's why I respect Kobe. Kobe was a G. Kobe didn't. you
Go
wouldn't
out
see
and
him
be tough.
exaggerating like that,
Go out and be tough,
There's some guys. Kawhi doesn't,
Kawhi doesn't, right.
Kawhi is, business only.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw in there a quick side conversation. How do you two feel about Marcus Smart's defense and his DPOY status? Do you think that's valid? Do you think he is a great defender? Do you think, obviously I think a lot of people think he definitely flops right here and there to pull some calls, but go ahead and dive into that a little bit.
I think one-on-one on-ball defender, he's great. He's a hustler. He will die for every ball. He will sacrifice his body and all of that. But like you mentioned, the flopping part, I'm not a fan of. Okay. I like him because he gets the team involved and engaged as well. He's not just playing a good defensive game just one-on-one. Like he's talking to everybody, making sure you're locked in as well. So like he's a great defender. He's a great team defender as well. But like again, I said, everybody has their flaws. I think that's his flaw with it, like with the flopping and with the whole complaining, and then he might dive on your ankle and get you out. A couple of weeks or whatever it may be, you know what I mean? But
so dirty. You're saying that was dirty.
A little dirty. A little dirty.
A little grimy.
No,
intentionally.
Not intentionally.
Okay.
Not intentionally.
Not malicious.
Not malicious.
Not Bruce Bowen.
A little too much. Like, bro, the ball is in front of him. Why are you diving over his? You know what I mean? I didn't think he did it on purpose, but I was upset because why? One, he took like a guy's out, regardless who is Steph or not, I think anybody, it's too much. You hate to see, I've been an athlete myself, I hate to see it. So you hate to see guys go down. So sometimes it's like, come on, bro, relax. That's why I'm not a fan of, Kyle Lowry, because he does that, a lot as well. But yes, I think this year, it was a lot of guys that could have, won it, but he was worthy of winning it.
Okay.
I don't think it was a reach. I think he deserved it. I think Matisse Thybulle on the Sixers. I'm not saying this because I'm a Sixers fan, but he had over.
Thybulle's awesome.
He's amazing.
Great
he had over 130 steals, over 75 blocks. Or about 75. He was up there. As a guard. So there are guys that he went up against, but his numbers, Marcus Smart's numbers were incredible as well. So
Simmons could have been in there, but he decided to take this season off.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
But I agree, Sam. I do agree with him being Defensive Player of the Year. Suns fans thought Bridges had an argument, and they call him the Warden, which is kind of cool.
Right.
But part of being a defensive presence is having that Draymond type of leadership. And do you think that a Marcus Smart on the Suns would let that Game 7 happen?
No way.
Like that's what I like about Smart. Again, I'm pretty self-aware. I root for a player that crosses the line between gamesmanship and dirty. So does Smart do that? Yes. But I absolutely think he's a great team defender, a great help defender, great individual defender. He deserved the award. One thing, and my friend Steve's a big proponent of this. We'll have him on another time. But one thing that makes me crazy that Smart does, but everyone does it. It's an epidemic at this point. Is going up. It's like drawing the charge when the guy's already in the air. But I'm not blaming Smart for that. He's not trying to injure anybody. That's just the way the game's been for the last 10, 15 years. And it's just like I'm always like, make a play on the ball or get the fuck out of the way. Like, just do something. Like, you're not going to draw play. Act like it's pickup ball. Don't just jump under the guy when he's flying up in the air. And it's like, what is he supposed to do?
But when it's Giannis, what's your game plan there?
Giannis doesn't count. Giannis screws everything up. He gets every call.
He just different set of rules. But again, you got to also think about it. Sometimes you're taking the fun away from the game a little bit. Sometimes they take a charge and you're like, it's Giannis. Shit, how else do you stop him? No,
that's a good point. I don't have a good answer for that.
But then it's like, because of Giannis, then it ruins it for everybody else. One time Ja Morant might be in the air, 6'2" flying. Somebody takes a charge, or it could have been a great dunk. Or
overperformed, Ja Morant. Dude, Ja Morant. Well, listen, he got hurt. He got hurt.
Yeah,
all right. He got hurt, so he underperformed.
Timberwolves series.
Timberwolves series.
As a leader, the leader of the team, I would say as a leader of the team, initially, yes, right. Even through the T-Wolves series, he wasn't playing that well to me. Or his numbers prove, right, he wasn't playing that well. You saw his dad joking about how he was trash in that series, right, and they moved on. I think his presence, right, creates that for the team as well, though. Even though they're battle tested this season without him, his presence opens it up for the team. So I would say underperformed in that series. I would say as a leader, he overperformed through the playoffs, and he overperformed initially. I said going into the I thought going into the Golden State Warriors series, he had a great few first games right before his injury, and you could see the fear, I think, in those guys' eyes. They said, this guy he's young and he's going at us. He really isn't scared of anybody. You got to give him his props like they did, but I would say overall for me, overperformed, but he did have a tough individual series during the T-Wolves series.
And he did get hurt. So I stand corrected. But yeah, I think those first 3 games against Golden State, I'm like, man, even though they're kind of like letting him do his thing and guard everyone else, like he was just going off. That was really impressive.
Unbelievable. Yeah. One of one for sure.
He's the future, man. He's the future.
Yeah.
Also, I do think Jordan Poole overperformed for sure. Averaging 12 to 18, scoring 31 in some of these playoff games. You got to give him his props for that. Jordan Poole highly, I think he overperformed for sure.
Yeah, and tough to overperform in his type of game, right? Like the Steph Curry archetype coming off of screens. Like we're talking bombing threes, right? Mixing people. You see him getting in the lane, finishing tough. That can't be an easy brand of basketball to overperform in. So
because there's different kinds of shooting. Think about it. There's really 3 different ways, right? You can come off screens like Steph Curry. You can just be a catch and shoot guy, or you can create it off a dribble. And that's what makes Steph so amazing. He can do all 3 at a super high level. But certain guys can't do, like James Harden can't catch and shoot. Certain guys can't do that. So you're right. Like the way Poole plays, and he's got Curry to learn from. Yeah.
He's got it all. Whereas even, I'm not going to get into is he replacing Clay, or any of that argument, or even replacing Steph. I won't get into any of that argument, but I think Clay's missing one of those, right? You see Clay, it's tough for him dribbling to get his shot really. He can do it against a lot of people, especially with that height, but he doesn't have the insane handle that we see like Jordan Poole and Steph Curry, right? He doesn't necessarily have the mix factor. So, someone's not scared of getting dropped while they're guarding him all the time.
Yeah, I think that Steph and Jordan Poole are more fluid, more agile. You can see them move left, right, turn around, all of that. Clay can when he gets you one-on-one down the post, but again, I think there's a lot of things that he could possibly polish as well. But again, he's such a better shooter,
crazy shooter,
catch and shoot per se. I think that makes his game great as well. But I don't think there'll ever be a conversation of if he's ever being replaced. I think he would be more of if anything. Them adding them to the pieces. I think they went through an era where, they had Monte Ellis and Steph coming in and one had to go. But I think we're in an era where, if you have a player and it's good, generational talent, you got to keep him. You got to find a way to build around him. You think Mark Cuban is ever going to let go of Luka? That will never happen. I don't care what, you got to give him another team.
That's why they like to go to Golden State. People like to play there, right? Yeah. You can see why. Everyone's selfless. They care about each other, right? They're welcoming for Jordan Poole, right? We got this pool party instead of the Splash Bros now, right?
Yeah.
It's all of them, right? So it's a good culture.
Do you guys like Steph Curry's dancing? Are you cool with that?
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with all types of celebrations. I think dancing's okay, right? I think it gets a little more dicey when you get into disrespect to people's faces, right? Certain people like the Pat Bev when he's like you were saying, too little on Ja Morant. I think that's a different type of. We know Ja Morant is far, far, far clear of Patrick Beverly, right? So you don't need to be going up to him and saying he's too little. But I think the dancing is fine. I think team celebrations are cool. Personally, to me, I enjoy it. I think it's cool flexing and all that. Just don't get too crazy to somebody, right? That's my personal.
I think I'll take the dances over stomping the logos and things like that, because it brings a different type of outlook. Especially, in today's game, like there are kids watching, I'm about to be a father. I don't, we want to explain to our kids, yeah, he's dancing because he's having fun. You got to have fun when, you're doing things that you enjoy, you love,
Right.
That's how he gets paid. There's never a time at work where you're like, woo, you do things, yeah, he just made a bucket that you and I cannot make. And, after practicing for, however many years, so yeah, he's going to have fun and do it out there. Ja Morant is going to do the whatever dance is called on the whatever,
gritty.
like gritty. Yeah, he's going to gritty it out, wherever he's at, and it's cool, let these guys have fun. I'd
The
rather
logo.
them do that than flip, guys off or like spit here and there. I think the cool celebrations are good. I think you might have a problem with it because it might be against Chris Paul when Luka, looking them in the face with Booker. That might be where you might draw the line for me.
Well, listen, I've evolved. Well, actually, my daughter's favorite moment is when Chris Paul did that shimmy in front of Steph Curry after he hit that big shot.
Yeah,
in the conference finals.
That was a good one.
I go, that was a great one. It was a big shot, and then he popped his hammy, a few minutes later. But so no dancing for him. But no, I'm old school, so I'm like, yo, don't dance like that because that's where someone comes in and sets the tone. But I'm old school, I'm old school. But now they're also entertainers.
Yeah.
And they're entertaining the crowd and they're just celebrating and having fun. So I'm cool with it as long as it's like me personally. I'm cool with it, Les. All right, but I'm not cool. I just noticed on Twitter and other places that if you like a guy, it's cool. But then if you don't like a guy or that team, it's not cool.
Right.
And it's because people don't own their biases. Like the three of us, we do a pretty good job, better than most, of owning our biases. It's always a work in progress. But we can kind of own it's like, hey, we're not rooting for that guy. That dancing pisses us off. But, like I just see a lot of people have issues with Ja Morant, but not Steph. It's like, well, wait, it's either let it all go or call it all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to always take it both ways, right? I was thinking the same thing, right? I watched that Celtics game 1 against the Heat, and you see the press conference and Bam's smiling. Hero's got like sunglasses on. They're joking around, and I was like, man. And someone said something about Jaylen Brown, like the energy has just shifted or something like that, right? What he tweeted before their big run. And so I was like, all I see is take it personally then. I think it's more fuel for the other team. And it looks like they did in game 2. But then like Jimmy Butler said, they embarrassed us in game 2. The Heat took it personally, came out in game 3, running their pockets, right? So I think I support it in terms of, like you said, you do have to own it both ways. I think more people should be aware of that, right? Like you don't want to wake certain people up or certain players and teams up, but I think, as long as you're owning it both ways, I'm cool with it for sure.
All right. Who's the GOAT?
Bron.
Oh,
I'm a big Bron guy, and that's nothing against MJ. I love MJ too, but I'll put Bron in that category.
All right.
Personally.
All good.
Yeah, I think in terms of if you can measure individual impact, that's my thing, right? In terms of most well-rounded individual impact, right? Everyone gets different types of scenarios within their games. Could he have done better in certain times? Absolutely, right? I think everyone can in certain times. You look at MJ's early career, hard to say he could do better in certain moments, right? But in terms of deliverance of what you're bringing to the game on a year-by-year basis, and when you look at from 2003 to today, still the same output, no drop off really, except I know a lot of people would say, and I do agree defensively. I know personally, I think a lot of that's related to effort. My guy's lazy as hell these days, right? I think nobody at home is doubting that.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of overall impact and well-roundedness as a player, how you can affect the game, for me, it's Bron.
Yeah, and I think I don't disagree with that. He has a take, but my go, I'll say MJ, and that's because I think when you look about this, when you talk about this GOAT thing, I think people either want to decide it based on overall, dominance or over how much you wanted to win. I think when you think about it, LeBron physically can do everything as good, if not better than Michael Jordan. But I think Michael Jordan was a better winner when it came down to it, So I think he moved his team a certain way that regardless whether we're in nice, good terms, bad terms, we're going to win or you're not here. You know, he was that assertive. You know, he was like a man among boys. You know, he was, you know, the dad among men. You know, like he was just trying to bring a different, you know, set in a different kind of tone. In today's age, you know, you can't do that. You know, people will not even want to play with you. You know, but I think LeBron brings some kind of, you know, leadership. You know, what he does in the community and all of that. But on the basketball court, you know, I think 2012 to 2017. LeBron James was the best basketball player ever. You know, just the man, what he can, you know, do.
18 too.
You know,
18,
18 was amazing. You know,
that's when my opinion changed.
Okay. 18. You know, from 18 going 18, he was still amazing. But you know, that snake Kevin Durant doing his thing. You know. So you got to recognize that as well. But, you know, I think about a game. I'm much of a winner than what can you do, you know? So I think I give it to MJ because it's like, how are we going to win? You know, I'd rather play basketball game where I have 10 rebounds, 11 assists, 5 steals, 3 blocks, and 5 points than put up 25 points, 10, and then we lost. I don't care about none of that. I'd rather be, you know, contribute, you know, somehow. MJ did it on both ends, you know. He was, you know, on offense, he was as dominant as on defense, as dominant. You know what I mean? Like, he can lock down whoever, you know, that as long as the matchup makes sense, you know, MJ is gonna, you know, make you squirm, you know what I mean? So when you look at that, you know, LeBron was a great defender in the beginning of his career, but he wasn't the guy that's gonna make you, if you're KD, pass the ball every time. You get what I'm saying? You're gonna go. You guys are gonna battle. He might hold you to 35 points, you know, 30 points, you know, because some guys are not just guardable one-on-one. But MJ's time, it wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. You know, Michael Jordan will not, you know, and then again, he did have, you know, the likes of Pippen and Rodman, you know, to help him out here and there as well too. You know, they had great length on that team. But again, Michael was more of a winner, you know, when it comes to, you know, game 6, game 7, how are we going MJ gonna get us there, you know? Yeah, LeBron could carry a team a whole season and all of that, but you can only go so much. MJ, you could never say that he can only go so much, but as a better you know, he's a better passer, you know, driving to the hoop, he's as good, you know, athletic, he's 6'8", you know, bigger frame, you know, he could, you know, I think, you know, he had a better chance going through 1 through 4 than MJ did. You know, MJ 1 through 3, yeah, unguardable. 4, yeah, he put you on skates and all, but LeBron can, you know, use the size there as well too. So yeah, as a better basketball play, you know, like I said, LeBron could put up the numbers points wise, 28, 35, whatever, just like MJ can, you know, pass the ball better. If we're being honest, I think LeBron is the best point guard to ever play basketball.
Hey, that's my take. How you did that too? We both say that.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a minute. So, you know, you just came on board and I would take you,
man.
right?
We came about it individually, but you said it first.
Yes,
but yeah, you see, I think because it's funny, you know, we'll go into an episode one day where we just break down everything because I'm a numbers guy and I love video, you know, I love all that stuff. But bottom line is like, you know, LeBron I say since that Mavericks series collapsed, like after that, if you exclude that, if you want to start from 2012 to like 2019, that range, and then compare it to Jordan's, you know, 88 to 98 range, like there's an argument for both sides. You know, because LeBron took a little bit more time to get there mentally at the NBA level. And that's just based on their upbringing and everything like that, which is perfectly okay to admit. But you know, I look at the game itself. I say, listen, you know, Jordan is in my opinion, he was a better, more consistent shooter. He could actually hang in the air more. LeBron's quote unquote more athletic, but Jordan could do these crazy things and hang in the air even longer.
Yeah, raw athleticism.
Yeah, Jordan raw athleticism, you know.
Yeah,
just LeBron, his size makes him get up there, you know.
And he was just more. Like LeBron didn't get good. To that
Jordan
level.
made it was artsy, you know, like it was just. You know, like beautiful, you know what I mean? But
I was sitting there watching against your boys, game 6 of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals. And LeBron had that face. And he just went off for 45. I'm sorry to bring up bad memories. I just had to deal with the Suns. 45 and 15. And I was like, yo, that was Michael Jordan. I'm like, that right there. And from that moment on, for the next
He has
7-8 years. I'm like, that was Michael Jordan. I'm like that.
Yeah.
And then, so again, I think LeBron's a more versatile defender, but Jordan might've been better individually. You know, like LeBron could guard more people, but Jordan was just, defensive player of the year one year, tons of steals, more of a showman. I think, honestly, something I thought about lately is LeBron controls the rock a lot. Maybe Jordan might've been a better off the ball player than LeBron. I mean, LeBron could cut and stuff, but LeBron sometimes liked to kind of control the shit where Jordan kind of just passed the ball, moved around, got it back, then shot it. So, I think there's an argument. And then you look at the numbers, man, like they're really close. You take like playoffs and all the regular stats and advanced stats and the middle ground there. And it's like, there's an argument. So I still go, MJ1, Bron 2, and Kareem and Russell for me. And then, that's where I go. But if I had a 1-game scenario, I'm still picking Jordan, but I'd be a little worried if LeBron was on the other side. So we'll get in. We're gonna get Sam back for when we get into this episode. All right,
Absolutely.
We're gonna have to get.
I want to add for me. I never believed that. I grew up believing Jordan was the GOAT until, and there's a few moments that now stand out to me more so than later, right? Like 07, leading that team by yourself, right? But 2018 is when I had to stop hating LeBron James. That Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7, fourth quarter, you get dunked on by a rookie, Jason Tatum, right? And you're fighting to go to the finals, and you're LeBron James.
Right there after that dunk.
And in that playoffs, you've put up insane numbers, right? You have sung the Raptors again. You've hit maybe 2 or 3 game winners, right? And in that moment, you saw in his eyes, he's like, all right, you can dunk on me. I saw the next maybe 7-8 possessions, ISO LeBron James, Tatum and Brown, 2 fantastic individual defenders, get absolutely cooked, right? I saw that and I was like, I have to stop hating this dude, right? And you look back in moments like you said, 2012, Game 6, right? Stuff like that stands out a little more, right? To me, the fact that he could lead, certain teams so far without having anyone but himself. Whereas, and no shade to Jordan, right? But you look at his record without Scottie, and you look at his record before he really got into the 90s, right? Late 80s into the 90s wasn't so great, right? 1-9 without Scottie Pippen. And even though he was going off, tearing teams apart, you could say it was the same thing, right? Putting up numbers, but where's the results for it? My guy's getting swept in certain times. So I don't fault people for things like that. I think a lot of it is timing and situations that you're in. But like you said,
competition, who you playing? Jordan's playing all-time teams, and you're right. And then I used to criticize LeBron. I'm like, yeah, you made it to the finals, but you stunk against the Spurs. You didn't go out swinging.
Right.
But that's what I was talking about with the mentality,
Right. Remind me his record. What's his record again? Is it 3-4 now?
In the finals?
Yeah.
4-6.
4-6. Excuse me. Oh, I'm crazy.
We forgot about the bubble. It's all right. The bubble.
4-6 though. But if you look at the numbers, actually, LeBron being favored in those final series, I think he's only got 3 favorites. Right. And of course, the Golden State one, right? He stole that one, so he got one up there. But of course, the Mavericks series, he dropped one that neutralizes. But he's got one more than he was favored for. So, like you said, who are you playing to? Like,
it does matter.
It does matter. Ran into, I would say, even before KD got there, you got to put him up there for one of the greatest teams of all time. Absolutely shredding opponents, So I think a lot of it is timing. But like you said, it's so close. And I personally don't even fault people who put Jordan as number 1. I think it's perfectly reasonable. It's just that close that, like you said, I'm a huge number guy. When you dig a little bit deeper, it gets a little bit, messier. So
it's tough.
It's crazy.
What about Leslie? When did you stop hating LeBron?
No, he hasn't stopped.
No, I've been stabbed. I've been stabbed. I mean, let's use the word dislike. I dislike LeBron as a basketball player. I love LeBron as a man. Okay. I think he's cool. I think off the court, he does a lot for the community. I love him as a black man. He does a lot for, everybody, but on the basketball court, I've never been a fan of LeBron James. I've never been a fan of LeBron James, and I'm not a fan of LeBron James, and I'll tell you why. I'm a huge Kobe fan. And when LeBron, was, entering the league, he was just coming in as the king. Hey, wait, hold up. But there's Kobe. You know what I mean? Like, Kobe was the man at that time, and that's who I grew up on. That's my favorite. So if, you're being compared to, my favorite player at the time, they were not even being compared sometimes. It was just, LeBron might be better than Jordan. It's like, hey, wait, hold up. Has he even got into Kobe's status?
Don't let the media convince you.
Yeah,
Don't the media sway you?
They tried.
But they tried, absolutely. But you got to understand, I also grew up with
got me mad too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I'm mad, I'm mad. Like, yo, why are you just getting the league? And then, so yeah, that's where it started,
Does that add though? Does that add, to jump in quickly, does that add a layer? Do you think it's a little harder when he's not even drafted yet, right? And they got you on commercials with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. You're about to get in the NBA on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
It made it hard to almost like him. You know what I mean?
A lot of pressure for LeBron that he handled.
Yeah, I had a fan, and Kobe Bryant, so it made it hard for me to become, but then when I, also, when Kobe and Iverson were out, I became a Derrick Rose fan, watching him from Memphis to the league. So I became, I used to at that point like players, because my favorite were gone. I had to stick with D Rose, and then he was, in his prime, getting, 22-year-old ever to win, MVP. To get, beat by LeBron, it was like, damn, everywhere I go, I started liking, the Knicks a little bit because of my stepdad. But then LeBron, was tearing them up too. So it was like LeBron was just, step, just like the Tom Brady thing, just beating everything that I like. So I dislike him because he's that good. There's no hate in it. Okay. There's no hate in it, but I stopped disrespecting and all of that in 2018 when he beat the Pacers and what's it called, the Raptors. And when he hit that off the when he got one hand bank shot when he swept them, they were calling them LeBronto. From there I was actually in Toronto at that time. From there I stopped hating Bron. It was Celtics like
beat the Celtics.
Beat the Celtics that whole reign, but then he went on. And
game one, let's not forget, 50-point triple-double really has his team in a spot to win.
But
and
then
J.R. Smith.
J.R. Smith, chokes a little bit. But who knew how that series?
He had a weed moment. We've all had him,
Yeah.
It was the wrong time to have it.
Worst time to have it.
Worst moment, But I think, after he won and even got swept, I still was like, I gotta stop hating this man. Like, how do you even go through that? Like sweeping teams, like that year, I'm pretty sure he hit like 3, bank, what's it called? Threes that were all, the buzzer time. One of them was against Washington with Bradley Beal.
Caught it. A layup.
Yep. Caught it.
Turned around,
did it to Jimmy Butler. Same thing. Caught it, against the Timberwolves, and then he went into the playoffs, continued that same reign, and I'm like, that's the king. He's been the king, but now, hey, I see it. I'm gonna give props when it's there and all of that. But it doesn't still. I'm still not rooting for the Lakers because of LeBron, things like that. So it's not hate. It's just
Sam definitely not.
No. They can't have more chips than the Celtics.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the count now? It's close, right?
Tied 17.
17.
Oh, all right.
Unless you're a bubble disqualifier, you got a 16.5 or a 16.
I go Celtics got it now.
I personally give it to them. I give it to them. Everyone had the same challenges. Everyone had the same challenges. You had your teams.
You and I don't
Injuries
believe this,
part
Mike.
Of the game.
Don't even make that face. We don't believe that bubble thing.
We called out Anthony Davis. That's all. You called him Mr. Bubble. I laughed.
No, I think because he's shown it before. He's capable of getting it done.
Won.
But I think, like you said, like James Harden, maybe he doesn't, fully take care of himself all the way. Did he party a little too hard after the bubble championship? You know what I mean? When a guy like LeBron, like if he gets injured, you're like, okay, well, I know this dude's doing freakish workouts and sitting in a cryo chamber and, spending all this money on his body. AD, sometimes you're like, there's no way. You're back from injury and you're injured in the third quarter.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I'll represent Steve again. We were watching Laker games early, and my best friend Steve is a Laker fan because he loves Westbrook. He's a Westbrook fan. So now he's rooting for the Lakers. He's watching the game and he's like, yo, why does AD look like the oldest player out there? Isn't he supposed to be carrying the load? Why does he look like the old man on the court? Why is he looking like a tall Uncle Drew?
Right.
I was like,
seriously.
So he was defending Westbrook, but also kind of like, it's true. It's like, where's this Anthony Davis? Like,
right.
This, I don't know. Either way, my last point on LeBron, and I'm not trying to take any shots at LeBron. Again, he's my number 2 all time. but I have met a few females in the last couple years that described him on the court as a bitch. Now, right or wrong, these are statements that were made, and that would never, ever be uttered by any sex ever about Michael Jordan.
No,
ever.
Or Kobe. Or certain other people.
And the reason that they said that was because I think like they felt like he was hypocritical. Like he would complain about a call, but then do the same thing. He would flop, but then complain about floppers. And probably, Les, you guys probably rooting against him. You probably called that out more. But it's just funny to see.
I can't stand that about him, and that's also another point.
That's the tiebreaker.
He is, and you know what I'll say on that note is
tiebreaker.
He does that to win. He does that to win the game, right? Like we talked about Chris Paul, right? We talked about people like that who pull those things out to win the game.
Yeah.
And even people like Marcus Smart, right? I saw Marcus Smart draw two pretty wild offensive charges. One was probably warranted, but against the Rockets a couple of years ago, and steal a game from it. And
I remember that.
I started paying attention to Chris Paul is winning a couple games a season doing that. Marcus Smart's winning a couple games. Yeah. So I'm like, LeBron is going to use everything he can. Yeah. That's, you see people talking in the refs' ear, they're not even jawing at him, but you see someone talking to the refs every second they can. And you're like, this guy's playing basketball and also a couple other things during this game. Mm-hmm. And that's what's getting the game won,
Quick story. I was really fortunate back when the Nets were in New York. I had a good friend from middle school who had Net season tickets, and he hooked me up. And in 2009, I saw in 1 month, LeBron, Kobe, Chris Paul, and D Wade.
Wow.
D Wade did one of the most dick things I've ever seen. He stole a ball, he got fouled, and then from the other team's other side on the free throw line, he took the ball in midair and threw it, and it went in the hoop. 75 feet away. The whole crowd just gave him a standing ovation. Like, what a dick move. Just like get fouled and just throw the ball and he made it. But my point is all four of them did not stop talking to the referees.
Yeah.
But they did it in different ways. Like I brought this up to Leslie. He got mad. He's like, don't you call Kobe a whiner. I was like, oh, no. Kobe was just gaming him. He was just like,
the ref's ear for sure.
Don't give me that call. LeBron was a little more whiny about it. He was a lot younger.
Yep.
I forget about Paul. I'm sure he was whining. And young Paul. And then Wade, same thing. Wade was a little bit older. So but it was funny. Like you said, man, they're always gaming. They're always talking. They're always trying to get that next edge. And, I can't fault LeBron that much for it, but
yeah. Mike did it too. Like you said, everyone did it in their way.
I'm sure Mike did it too.
More intimidating almost, right? More quiet about it. More just maybe he gets his quick 1 or 2 liner out, right? More like Tim. I'm sure same thing with like people like Tim Duncan. But you see that clip of Mike, right? And the ref's like, did he really get you, Mike? All right, I'll give it to you. All right, foul. It's like he had his way too. Players use that for sure to get there.
Yeah, it's an era thing. Who knows what he would do today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Les, you know what Michael Jordan said? When they introduced female refs, he was not very politically correct. You know what he said? He goes, you can't have female refs. I can't slap them on the ass. That's my GOAT. he's probably paying to get that scrubbed off the internet.
Yeah.
I just brought it back.
Now they're going to watch World Sports Debate and find it.
Right.
But before we end with basketball, I want to talk a little bit about, one thing about football, with the, schedule coming out. You still predicting that crazy thing? What's your prediction, actually? Let me ask both of you for the season coming up. What teams do you see making it all the way to the AFC final and the NFC final? And who do you actually think is the best team this year coming in or winning it?
It's for me. I'll be quick, right? Because I'm not too deep into, I'll say, the stats of the football world at this moment in time. I think personally, from what I'm seeing, of course, there's some shakeup. I think not too big of a trend off of what we saw last year. I think we'll see a lot of what we saw last year. For me, I think 2 powerhouse teams that I'm going to put up there absolutely are the Buccaneers and the Chiefs again. I think even with the loss of Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs will find a way to get it done. I think the Buccaneers have, when we look at, Tom Brady leading the way, and then any consistent piece other than him might get the job done as well. I put those two as my 2 favorite teams to go to the Super Bowl. And from there, it's hard to bet against Tom Brady. But I like youth over where the Bucks are at right now. So I'll take the Chiefs.
The Chiefs. What about you, Mike?
All right, in the AFC, I'm gonna go with. What are you laughing? You're laughing already. The Bills. I'm gonna go with the Bills and Broncos in the conference championship game.
Broncos will figure it out.
Broncos will figure it out.
I like it.
Russell's. I'm not sure they're gonna win a Super Bowl this year. You know how my predictions have gone lately, but I'm gonna say that the Broncos will have. Russell Wilson will surprise people. He will do it. He will continue being an all-time great, and he's currently getting disrespected. And I'm here to let everyone know that he's on that level. So
agreed.
The Bills, but the Bills are my favorite. If I had to pick one team, I think the Chiefs. I love Mahomes. I think that you don't make 4 straight title games. I think you're going to have a little slip downward. So I do think the Bills are the favorite in my mind to represent the AFC, with the Broncos being second at this point. And then in the NFC, I don't know. I feel like the Rams and Bucks are going to be there. And then I don't know. There's going to be some dark horse team that comes up there. Maybe it's Green Bay. Maybe it's a team that we're not even thinking about right now. But, if I had to pick something, I'll go with, just to make Leslie happy, the Broncos over the Rams to the Super Bowl. There you go. All right, go, Les.
All right.
Rams. I like it.
I think for AFC, I'm going with the best team in the league. I'm going with the Bills. I don't even care who the Bills face, but it's going to be the Bills winning it with the MVP or MVP candidate, when Josh Allen. Like I said, in about 2 years, Josh Allen was going to be the best player in the league. He is going to be the MVP. I'm calling it right here, right now, too, this year. No injuries bearing on this team whatsoever. I think Josh Allen and the Bills will figure it out to the final. On the NFC side, I think, Green Bay still has Rodgers, so you can never count them out. The Rams, are looking better than last year. But then you got to think about my Niners too. But I don't think we're going to get there anyway. But I think it would be the Rams and the Bills, with the Rams taking it home. I mean, sorry, God forbid. The Bills taking it home. Do we
think any young guys like our, get to Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, what's my guy's name in San Diego, Justin Herbert? Do we think any young guys leading those reigns are going to make any noise?
I do think Joe Burrow's team is only going to get better. I think also Kyler Murray is going to get even much better. Yeah, also, you got to think about the fact that the Ravens didn't have a lot of their key players on defense, so Lamar Jackson will get a little bit of help back. He was hurt. I think he's going to look much better. He's going to look like the MVP guy that we know him to be. Mahomes, I think, he might show us who he really is, not having Tyreek Hill. He still has, the whole offense, and with Travis Kelce, they put more pieces around him, with Marcus Valdes-Scantling. But, when you miss Tyreek Hill, you miss a great piece. Mahomes is still young. I know because of, his Super Bowl ring and appearance, it makes it probably sound like I shouldn't be talking about Mahomes. But yeah, young guys like Mahomes are still gonna do what they're supposed to. Kyler Murray, absolutely. Joe Burrow, I think that his team is only gonna get better. Jamar Chase just showed us what he can absolutely tear up. So
Browns, Deshaun Watson.
Browns, I've been the Deshaun Watson fan, for a while now. So seeing him back on the field, that's gonna be amazing to watch. So I'm all for that as well too. But again, like we spoke about, I think. Also, actually, let me not count them out. Miami Dolphins, I'm actually excited to see what they're going to do with all those pieces, if you ask me. Justin Herbert is only getting started. Now with, 3 years under his belt, he's going to come out firing, Bills, Josh Allen, like I said, MVP, young guy. That's who I'm picking for my MVP, and that's who, they're going to be making the noise. And I can also see some teams underperforming too, Vikings. I don't know what's going on with them. It seemed like Vikings, when you have them, it's like,
you got your boy Cousins.
You got Cousins and milking them like a cow, he got the best agent. Kirk Cousins and Sam Bradford.
Yeah, right? Sam Darnold too. Let me tell you, I'm a Panthers fan.
Okay,
Sam Darnold
that
too.
Hurt.
Yeah,
that hurt. But yeah, you can tell. He has the best agent. That guy knows how to get the money out. And not perform. 8-8, 8-9, whatever. It's like, wow. You know, with this kind of talent, you know, you give me Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, and I'm, you know, bro, not me, but you know, you give it to Rodgers
Jimmy
or somebody,
GQ.
you know. Jimmy G, good at Subway commercials, if anything. You know, I'm not here to disrespect no man, but we're talking about my quarterback. All right.
No, Sam, I definitely think, it's a lot of young talent. You know, Deshaun Watson's still young.
Yeah, he is.
Herbert, we know, a lot of talent. One of these guys is going to step up. I feel like Burrow and them, they definitely deserve to be there. And he's very clutch, but I don't think they're going to make it back this year. I think maybe they make the playoffs, but you know, one of those guys is going to step up. Lamar's still young and in his prime. He's impressed me lately. Like, I know he won the MVP and he's got the whole arsenal. He's never been a traditional pocket QB, but he's led a lot of comebacks lately, which he hadn't done early. So he's impressed me a lot with that. So, you know, there's so much talent at the position.
The league is in great hands.
Yeah,
to be honest.
for sure. So, I think, but I think Les has a point. You know, I think that Josh Allen is definitely trending toward that MVP. The last 2 years, he's been spectacular. So definitely possible. I hope my boy Russell, he's my favorite player. At some point he gets an MVP and another ring, but
we can all tell that's your favorite player.
I've been very fair. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hey, I respect Wilson, you know, like I stopped hating him after 2013, 14. It's like, bro.
Hey, he went 17-4 against your team. Yeah.
It's the same thing. I know. You don't got to bring it up. I know. I watch every of them. You know what I mean? But
listen, this is my fault. Partially my fault. You know, we should have had this going a couple years ago. Maybe we could have helped get Pete Carroll fired. Instead, Russell had to go run away from him.
Right. Yeah, and that's the part where I take from Russell. You got to be a little bit assertive. The LeBrons, the Tom Brady, they're going to get their coach fired, you know, to make it if he's the problem. But, you know, clearly, you know, his wife was like, nah, babe, let's go. And he was okay, babe. Hey, Pete, I'm going to be out. Denver, it is.
Little house in Aspen.
You know, it is. I need them to be more, you know, that assertive.
Don't give Ciara no credit. She knows where her bread is buttered, all right?
We'll talk about more of the next episode, brother. All right, let's sit on that. All right, hurt on that one, okay. But anyway, it was nice to have Sam on the show tonight. Raw Sports Debate. We'd love to have you back again. All right, but again, episode 10 and moving on. All right, it was a great episode. Everybody have a good night now.
All right, peace out. Thanks for coming on, Sam.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
All right,
broski. I'm about to eat.
I know you're about to eat. You always eat right after the episode.
I need to.